University High. My name is Katya Martinez.
My name is Jacob Stang, and today is February 3rd, and this is your local news. Breaking news, everyone, the father of the periodic table, has died. Dmitry Mendeleev has died at the ripe age of 73. Today's segment will be a tribute honoring his death and life's work.
Born as Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev on February 8, 1834, and the youngest of 14 children, Mendeleev grew up in Siberia. When his father died in 1847, his mother rode him on horseback to an elite university in Moscow, where he was rejected because he wasn't local stock.
His mom then rode him to St. Petersburg, his father's alma mater, where his mom was able to see him get enrolled before she passed away.
Turns out he was a brilliant student. When he graduated, he studied in Paris and Heidelberg, where Bunsen taught him for 3 years. For 3 years, Robert Bunsen, or the guy who modified the Bunsen burner, taught Mendeleev.
Mendeleev then returned to St. Petersburg in 1860s as professor. This is where he began to think of the nature of atoms, and his work culminated into the periodic table.
What was actually interesting was the development of the periodic table. Mendeleev, like most University High kids, meeting a deadline, threw together his periodical system to meet a textbook publisher's deadline. His first volume was 500 pages and only covered 8 of the elements. So he then had to stick the rest of the elements in a second volume. Someone should have told Mendeleev that procrastination is the devil, because after 6 weeks of procrastinating, Mendeleev was finally inspired. The best way to present the information was in a table. So he threw away his side job to focus on the table. He also named new elements with the Sanskrit word beyond, as known eka-silicon or eka-boron. He published the periodic table in 1869.
Mendeleev had not only had great accomplishments, but he also had some setbacks. There was a French chemist named Lequeux de Vauxnauvon who competed against Mendeleev, named gallium as eka-aluminium and tried to take all of the credit. Lequeux then accused Mendeleev of taking a Frenchman's work in the development of the periodic table, which was worse than plagiarism at the time.
This didn't go so well. The two chemists battled this out on Twitter
when Lequeux tagged Mendeleev in a tweet saying, "All Mendeleev ever did was try to take credit for my findings. That's all Mendeleev does. He's only doing this to get attention. Hashtag just saying." Mendeleev then responded with, "Lequeux, I saw the data you got, and I wasn't surprised that your data wasn't even close to the proper data I calculated. Hashtag mic drop."
It seemed that throughout Mendeleev's career, he was always in a competition with somebody else. In another case, a German scientist named Julius Lothar Meyer published his periodic table around the same time. They split the prestigious pre-Nobel Prize award, the Davy Award medal. In 1882, for co-discovering the periodic law, Meyer went on with his life, but Mendeleev refused to believe in the reality of the atoms because he couldn't see them.
Well, I guess seeing is believing.
So exactly what separated Mendeleev from the other chemists at the time?
He understood that certain traits about elements persist. He noticed that each element's atomic weight or mass stayed constant. Mendeleev considered this a defining trait. He had also worked in chem labs his whole life and gained a deep knowledge of how elements felt and smelled and reacted. This allowed him to put all the known elements at the time in columns and rows, which we now know as periods and groups.
Mendeleev revised his table obsessively. It is now known that he held labeled index cards with the elements as a way of chemical solitaire with them.
The book The Disappearing Spoon says Mendeleev, unlike Meyer, had the balls to predict that new elements would be dug up. Not only did Mendeleev put extra spots for new elements on the periodic table, he even predicted the densities and atomic weights of hidden elements. You should have seen how amazed people were when his predictions proved correct.
There were other people like John Newlands, Alexander Bayer, and Julius Meyer who contributed to the first periodic table, but the main credit goes to Mendeleev because of 2 reasons. One, there were only 16 known elements at the time, and second, some of the information about the 60 was wrong. It was Mendeleev's doing a huge jigsaw puzzle with a third of the pieces missing or bent.
Mendeleev arranged this information of the elements in vertical columns with increasing atomic weights or masses, so that the horizontal rows contained similar elements, again, in increasing weight order.
Mendeleev is sometimes compared to Darwin because both of these scientists did not do all the work, but most of the work, even more elegantly than others.
He was also like Darwin because he made lasting enemies. Mendeleev had enemies because naming elements that he had never seen before was too bold and too forward.
Well, folks, that'll conclude today's segment. Have a great day.
Bye.
The periodic table has died. Dmitri Mendeleev.
On February 8th, 1834, and the youngest of 14 children. Oh my god.
They're a French chemist named Mendeleev has died at the ripe age of 73.
Today's segment will be a tribute to honoring the dead.